Welcome to CET class. Today we are going to discuss the synopsis of the chapters electromagnetic induction and alternating current. So to start with, we have electromagnetic induction. So the first thing that we come across in electromagnetic induction is Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So it has two parts. First thing, an EMF is induced in a coil only when the magnetic flux linked with the coil changes with respect to time, and the induced EMF is equal to, not proportional to, it should be equal to d phi by dt, that is the rate of change of magnetic flux linked with the coil, and induced current is observed only in the closed circuit, and this EMF persists as long as the flux is changing. And this induced EMF is instantaneous. So an EMF is induced across the ends of a coil when the magnetic flux linked with the coil changes with respect to time, and the induced EMF is equal to rate of change of magnetic flux linked with the coil, and this induced EMF exists as long as the flux is changing. And if the circuit is closed, the current flows in the circuit, that is what we call it as induced current. So this is your Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. Proceeding further, first thing we have to define what is magnetic flux. So magnetic flux is denoted by phi b in order to distinguish it from electric flux. So it is defined in the same way as that of electric flux. So it is dot product of magnetic field and area of cross section. So P dot A it is, then it will be BA cos theta, where theta is angle between the area vector and the field vector. So A is the area of the plane of the coil, and B is intensity of magnetic field, or what we call it as magnetic field induction. Then the direction of induced EMF is given by Lenz's law. So according to Lenz's law, the direction of induced EMF is always such that it opposes the cause that produces the EMF. So we get this additional negative sign. This is the correction to Faraday's law. So this correction is due to the conservation of energy. So mechanical energy getting converted to electrical energy. So the direction of induced EMF and hence the current is given by the Fleming's right hand rule, or what we call it as dynamo rule. So in Fleming's right hand rule, if you stretch the first three fingers of your right hand, then if forefinger points in the direction of magnetic field, middle finger gives you the direction of induced current, where thumb gives you direction of motion of the conductor. So if forefinger points in the direction of magnetic field and thumb points in the direction of motion of conductor, then middle finger gives you direction of induced current. Then expression for the motional EMF. So if a conductor is moving in magnetic field perpendicular to the direction of magnetic field, suppose if the magnetic field is directed into the plane of board like this, then if there is a conductor which moves in a direction perpendicular to direction of magnetic field this way, then if its velocity is v, length of the conductor is L, and magnetic field strength is B in this region, if it is uniform magnetic field, then the induced EMF across the ends of the conductor is given by E is equal to BLV. Then induced current will be BLV divided by R plus R, where R is the resistance of the conductor, capital R is the circuit resistance. The change in magnetic flux linked with the conductor in time dt is given by d phi is equal to B into A, or d phi is equal to BL into dx. If it covers a distance dx in time dt, then area swept by this conductor will be L into dx. That is what is taken here. Next, a metallic rod of length L is rotated with an angular frequency omega in a circle, and plane of circle is perpendicular to the magnetic field B. Then induced EMF across the ends of the rod is E is equal to half BL square omega. Suppose if there is a region of magnetic field if this is the conductor of length L, then about one of its ends, if it is rotated in the magnetic field, then the induced EMF is given by half BL square omega, where L is length of the conductor and omega is angular velocity of rotation. So we'll move on to next one, the concept of self-induction. When a varying current is passed through a coil, an EMF is developed by the coil in the opposite direction. So this is what we call it as self-induction. The phenomena is called self-induction. EMF induced E is equal to minus L into di by dt, where L is self-inductance of the coil. So self-inductance of a coil, a cylindrical coil, is given by mu naught mu r n square A divided by L, where n is number of turns, A is area of cross section, mu r is the permittivity of the medium, relative permeability of the medium inside the core of the coil, and L is length of the coil. So self-induced EMF is called back EMF. The induced EMF during the break of the circuit is larger than during the make. So suppose if there is a coil connected to a battery by means of a switch. Now when you close the switch, then current in the circuit increases gradually and becomes constant. During that time there will be an EMF which produces current in the opposite direction to current in the circuit. So this is called back EMF. This is called back EMF. Due to back EMF there will be a current. Now if you switch off the circuit, then the current in the circuit starts falling. During that time there will be current in this direction. So the induced current produced during the break of the circuit, that means when you open the circuit, when you switch off the circuit, then decay of current in the circuit is greater than, the rate of decay is greater than, or decay is faster than the growth of current when you make the circuit. That's why the induced EMF during break of the circuit is larger than the induced EMF produced during the make of the circuit. So one of the application of self-inductance is choke coil, that is used in many power supplies and also in tube lights, sodium vapor lamps and all. SI unit of self-inductance is Henry. An ideal inductor has negligible resistance but large self-inductance, like a solenoid. The induced EMF during break of the circuit is larger than during make. Okay, we'll move on to next slide. Mutual induction. The phenomenon in which current passing through one coil induces an EMF in the neighboring coil. So if there is one coil here, here is another coil. Let me name them as 1 and 2. So by varying current in this coil, if there is induced EMF in the other coil, then that phenomena we call it as mutual induction. So induced EMF in the second coil is given by ES is equal to minus M into di by dt, where IP is current in the primary coil, where M is called the coefficient of mutual inductance or just mutual inductance for the pair of coils. So mutual inductance for a pair of coils is given by mu naught mu r n1 n2 a divided by L, where n1 and n2 are number of turns in the coils 1 and 2, L is length of the coils. So this is for two cylindrical coils, that is two coaxial solenoids. Mutual inductance is also measured in Henry. The application of mutual induction is seen in transformers and induction coil. So dimensional formula for inductance is ml square t power minus 2 a to the power minus 2. So induction coil is a device which works on the principle of mutual induction. So here also EMF produced is maximum during the break of the circuit. So induction coil is used as a high voltage source in discharge tubes, X-rays, spark plugs, etc. So it is a device used to derive high DC voltage from a low DC input voltage. So induction coil was designed by Ruhmkorff. The capacitor in the induction coil helps in quenching of spark at the break of the primary circuit and increases the efficiency. Next, energy stored in an induction coil carrying current I is given by half Li square, where L is self-inductance and I is the current in the coil. So energy stored in the coil is stored in its magnetic field. Next, coming to the concept of eddy currents. So whenever a bulk conductor is subjected to time varying magnetic field, then there will be circular currents produced on the surface of the bulk conductor. So these currents are called eddy currents. So they were discovered by Foucault, and these eddy currents are used in electromagnetic damping in some galvanometers and electromagnetic brakes in some trains, then induction furnace, induction motor, then speedometer and induction stoves, induction cooktops. The next thing is AC generator. AC generator works on the principle of electromagnetic induction, that is mechanical energy is converted into electrical energy. So flux through a coil in the case of AC generator is given by BAN cos theta, where A is area of the coil, B is magnetic field in the region where coil is placed, and N is number of turns in the coil, and theta is angle between area vector and magnetic field. Then if theta is equal to omega t, where omega is the angular speed of the motor, then theta is equal to omega into t, that is angle covered will be equal to the angular velocity into time. Then induced EMF at any instant is given by E naught sin omega t, where E naught is BAN omega. Then induced current is I is equal to I naught sin omega t, where I naught is E naught divided by R is resistance of the coil. So I naught will be equal to E naught divided by R. Induced EMF varies sinusoidally with time. So this will be the variation of current or voltage in AC generator. So that's all about electromagnetic induction. We'll move on to the next chapter, that is alternating current. So alternating current or voltage is one which varies periodically with time, reversing the direction per every half a cycle. For every half cycle it should reverse its direction of flow. So then it is called alternating current. So some of the definitions relevant to alternating current are, so mean value of AC is given by mean value of current. If you take Im is equal to 2 I naught by pi, where I naught is peak value of AC. Then mean value of voltage is 2 V naught by pi, where V naught is peak value of voltage. So RMS value is given by I naught by root 2 in the case of current, V naught by root 2 in the case of voltage, where I naught and V naught are peak values of current and voltage. Mean value of AC over a complete cycle is 0. So we'll take it for half of the cycle. So it will turn out to be 2 root 2 by pi into IRMS, that is mean value of AC. Now coming to AC circuits. AC circuit containing a pure resistor in which if the applied voltage is V0 sin omega t, then the voltage in the circuit is V0 sin omega t, current through the circuit is I0 sin omega t, where I0 is V0 by R, where R is the resistance of the circuit. So voltage and current are in phase. There is no phase difference between voltage and current. So phase difference is 0. So impedance of the circuit is equal to resistance, that is V0 by I0 or V by I. Then power factor cos phi, since we have taken phase difference as phi, so it should be cos phi is equal to 1. Next, if you consider AC circuit containing pure inductor, then in case of pure inductive circuit, if voltage is V0 sin omega t, see if there is inductor connected to AC source, then current in the circuit is given by I is equal to I0 sin omega t minus pi by 2. So current lags behind the voltage by pi by 2. So voltage leads the current, V leads I. So impedance of the circuit is given by omega L, that is 2 pi f L, where omega is angular frequency of AC, f is frequency of AC. So XL is directly proportional to F. This is what we call it as inductive reactance. So inductive reactance is directly proportional to frequency. As frequency increases, inductive reactance increases. For DC, F is equal to 0. So XL turns out to be 0. So power factor in pure inductive circuit will be equal to 0 because it is cos phi. So phi is pi by 2, that is 90 degree, cos 90 degree is 0. For a pure inductance coil, resistance is 0. So this is the circuit and this is phasor diagram for pure inductive circuit. Next, if you consider AC circuit containing pure inductor, if voltage is given by V0 sin omega t, current is given by I0 sin omega t plus pi by 2. So current leads the voltage by pi by 2. Capacitive reactance is equal to XC, that is equal to 1 by omega c, that is 1 by 2 pi Fc. Notice one thing, the capacitive reactance is inversely proportional to frequency. For DC, F is equal to 0, which implies Xc is infinity. So capacitive reactance is infinity for DC. That's why capacitor is used to block DC. So power factor in this circuit is also 0 because cos pi by 2 is again 0. So for a pure capacitor, there is no resistance. So if you draw the circuit diagram will be like this. So if you draw the phasor diagram for this, then if this is voltage, current will lead the voltage by 90 degree. So phi is equal to 90 degree for pure capacitive circuit. Now coming to LCR circuit. So LCR circuit is a circuit in which inductor, capacitor and resistor, all the three are connected in series. So in the case of LCR circuit, the phase difference between voltage and current is given by tan phi is equal to XL minus XC by R, that is equal to VL minus VC by R. So power factor is given by R by Z. So power in AC circuit is given by P is equal to IRMS into VRMS into cos phi, where phi is phase difference between voltage and current. So in series LCR circuit, effective voltage is given by VR square plus VL minus VC whole square under root, where V is V naught sin omega t, I is I naught sin omega t plus or minus phi. Impedance in the circuit is given by Z is equal to root of R square plus XL minus XC whole square. So current in the circuit is V by Z. Now coming to the concept of electrical resonance in series LCR circuit. So in series LCR circuit, if XL becomes equal to XC, notice one thing, both are connected to frequency. By adjusting the frequency, if you arrive at this condition, then we say the circuit is at resonance. So at resonance, impedance will be minimum, that is equal to R. So it will be minimum impedance. So XL will be equal to XC. Then power factor will be maximum, that is equal to 1. Then current and voltage will be in phase. So the circuit acts as pure resistive circuit. The current in the circuit is maximum, so power delivered is maximum. Then expression for resonance frequency is given by F naught is equal to 1 divided by 2 pi root LC, where L is inductance, C is capacitance. Notice one thing, resonant frequency is independent of resistance. So suppose if you consider the variation of current with respect to frequency, then this is how the graph will be. If you vary the resistance, then the maximum current goes on decreasing. So initially when the resistance is R1, this is the curve. When you increase it to R2, this will be the peak. So when you increase it to R3, then this will be the peak. Notice one thing, maximum value of current goes on decreasing, but still the peak is at the same frequency. So resonance frequency is independent of resistance. Now if you take the value, if this is I maximum for a particular curve, now if you take the value I maximum by root 2, then this line which is parallel to x-axis cuts the curve at 2 points. So if you drop perpendiculars to x-axis, so you'll get two values here. So these 2 points correspond to frequencies f1 and f2, let us say. Then f1 and f2 are called half power frequencies. So they are called half power frequencies. So at half power frequencies, suppose if you take the difference between f2 and f1, so that will give you the band of frequencies. So this band of frequencies is called bandwidth of resonance. So this is called bandwidth of resonance. So these two frequencies will be symmetrically placed with respect to the resonant frequency f0. So whatever is the difference between f2 and f0, same will be the difference between f1 and f0. So sharpness of resonance is measured by f0 divided by bandwidth, that is f0 divided by f1 minus f2. More is the sharpness, more will be the sensitivity of the circuit with respect to frequency. Then coming to quality factor. Quality factor is defined as the ratio of inductive reactance or capacitive reactance to resistance at resonance. So The quality factor is a quantity which gives you the idea of sharpness of resonance. It is measured by using this factor. So either it will be omega naught L by R, or it will be 1 by omega naught C R. Either it is XL by R or it is XC by R. So this is how we define quality factor. So current through pure inductive or capacitive circuit, it is called wattless current because there is no power dissipated in these circuits. That's why it is called wattless current. So choke is a single coil made up of thick copper wire. So hence the power loss is minimum because the thickness of the wire is more. That's why resistance is less. So power loss will be minimum. So they are used to regulate current in AC circuit. Since resistance is less, power loss will be less. So there are different kinds of chokes. So high frequency chokes which are having small value of inductance, they are usually air cooled. Low frequency chokes have high value of inductance, they are usually having soft iron core. Then coming to concept of transformers. So they are used to increase or decrease. So in other words, we say step up or step down an alternating voltage. So to step up or step down an alternating voltage, we make use of transformers. So it works on the principle of mutual inductance. So in the case of transformers, the turns ratio is given by Ns by Np, where Ns is the number of turns in secondary coil, Np is number of turns in primary coil. So as I told you, transformer works on the principle of mutual inductance. Then there will be two coils. So this is the circuit symbol for transformer. So this is called primary coil, this is called secondary coil. So number of turns in this we call it as Np, number of turns in this we call it as Ns. Then Ns by Np gives you turns ratio. You can prove that it is equal to Vs by Vp. So that means voltage across secondary to voltage across primary. So if Ns is greater than Np, then Vs will be greater than Vp, then we call it as step up transformer, otherwise step down transformer. So for an ideal transformer, power input and power output should be equal. So Vp Ip should be equal to Vs Is. So in step up transformer, Ns is greater than Np, Vs is greater than Vp, therefore Is is less than Ip. See one thing, transformer does not increase the energy, so energy is still conserved. So stepping up of voltage results in stepping down of current. So in case of step down transformer, Ns is less than Np, Vs is less than Vp, so Is is greater than Ip. So stepping down of voltage results in stepping up of current. So there are various sources of energy loss in transformer. One is due to heating due to resistance of the coil, then loss due to flux leakage, then due to eddy currents, and also due to hysteresis loss. So efficiency of transformer is given by output power by input power. So that is Vs Is divided by Vp Ip. Then self-inductance of a coil can be measured by measuring its inductance and resistance. So once you connect it to AC circuit, you will get inductance, measure voltage by current, it will give you impedance Z. Then you connect it to DC circuit, you will get its resistance. By knowing those two values, you can use this formula to calculate self-inductance of a coil. Then coming to AC meters, as average value of AC over a complete cycle is 0, DC meters cannot be used to measure AC. So we need a different kind of meters, different kind of measurement here. So AC meters are of two types. One is hot wire ammeter. It is based on heating effect of electric current. Deflection produced is proportional to square of the current in this. Then moving iron meter, it is based on the principle of magnetic effect of electric current. So that is all about this alternating current. Thank you.